Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Everett, and I am the President and CEO of the Opportunity Alliance. And I'm here today with our amazing board member, Katherine Pelletreau, who is also the chairperson of our Advocacy Committee. How are you doing today, Katherine?
Doing well, Joe. Happy to be here.
Great. So tell us what brought you to the TOA board and what keeps you motivated to keep coming back as a board member.
I have such a soft spot for TOA, and it's just gotten softer since I started with the board. I came to the organization really through two mechanisms. The first was I had a friend on the board. So I knew somebody who was already involved who spoke so highly of the organization and of the staff and everything that TOA did. And then I had an opportunity during a kind of a leadership project that I did to meet a staff person from the organization. And I was able with her to do a little bit of a deeper dive into what the organization does and who's involved. And I just became really passionate about wanting to join this organization that was doing so much for people in my community locally. And I've loved being involved.
That's great. Well, it's been great having you. We love your energy and your enthusiasm for the work and all the expertise that you bring to the board. And you are the chairperson of the board advocacy committee. So maybe I can just tell folks what that means. So the board advocacy committee helps to develop, guide, and evaluate the advocacy strategies that move to TOA's public policy agenda forward. So broadly put, what does that mean? What do you do when you meet with the group? And I know that there's been really interesting, lively meetings this session. So tell us what a day in the life looks like at the advocacy committee, and then maybe talk a little bit about the legislative session this year.
Yep, happy to. Well, the Advocacy Committee is a group of very engaged and interesting members of our board. And we've got some members of the community who have other ties with TOA, but not necessarily board members. We meet monthly. We try really hard to always have at least one guest who's knowledgeable about something that TOA is really interested in. We spent the first probably, I don't know, 3-4 months or so working together to develop our priorities for this session, which was quite a complex exercise actually, because TOA works in partnership with a number of other organizations and with Thrive 2027. And of course, TOA has its own strategic plan. So we wanted to develop a set of priorities that meshed well with both what TOA was already doing and with our partners' strengths. So we now have a document. We have a public policy document. It treats the kind of three issues as foundational. One is childcare, and making sure that high quality childcare is available for people, which leads nicely into the next one, which is workforce development. Maine and TOA are having a very, very difficult time finding an adequate workforce. So that's also a focus. And then the third, of course, is, trying to meet the needs of our customers and clients. And that involves everything that someone needs to live a high quality life. So whether that's housing, food, healthcare, education, kind of all those services that wrap around a family and a community that make them able to thrive.
That's great. Very busy committee. And as I said, they're very engaged. So talk a little bit about how the legislative session has been this year during the pandemic. And I know it's been the committee meetings have been happening remotely, and you're in touch with a lot of those folks. So what has it been like?
It has been different than any other session I've ever been involved with. And I've been at this probably 22 years now. And this year, the pandemic has driven some fascinating changes, both on public policy, but also just logistically and how the legislature was able to do their work and is still continuing that. All the committees met via Zoom. So for those of us who testify routinely, it was all done remotely. We did a lot more in writing and, testified right into our computers. So the several plus sides of that and then some negatives. But the plus sides are, of course, via Zoom, it's much easier for people who live far away from the State House and who are challenged to get there by transportation schedule, et cetera. So it makes it easier for kind of regular people, not State House junkie types, not formal lobbyists, to be able to participate. And that's an important thing for TOA, to make sure that we are raising the voices of the people that we serve. So that was definitely a good thing. The second good thing about the Zooming was they were almost always on time. Usually in a session, you're sitting up there waiting for them to come in and take up your bill. And this time, if they said they were starting at 1, you could pretty much count on it. 1 o'clock or a little bit afterwards. So that was a great plus. But of course, there were huge negatives too. No FaceTime, no direct relationship building, much harder to connect with legislators, with other interested parties on issues of mutual interest. So I think the whole normal public policy making process was stickier and moved much more slowly. It was much less efficient.
Yes, definitely. It was definitely slow, but to your point about the access, it was great. What the hearings that I attended, to see individuals and family members from all over the state being able to testify on behalf of a bill or against a bill. So that access, for the first time that I've been in this role or at this organization, it was really incredible to watch.
Yep.
So,
Can I make one more note here?
sure.
Which is, I think another point on access is part of what the legislature did, the Maine legislature did, to be able to accommodate these new working styles, was to really beef up their website. And that means that now, if you're a member of the public, you can easily access pretty much all the committee materials online. So much more accessible than that type of information was before. All the testimony is online, all the working documents from the committee policy analyst, those things are now all online. So much easier not only to get a hold of them, but then also to figure out how to participate in the most meaningful way.
Yeah, that's really exciting that the information is so accessible and just seems so much easier than the old days of waiting to get them in your hand or trying to find a copy of a document. So that's great.
Exactly.
So just lastly, where's the advocacy committee going from here? What's on the roadmap for the next few months once the session winds down?
Yeah, well, yeah, if the session winds down, yeah. Well, it's important to recognize that our advocacy committee doesn't just deal with the legislature. We also try to advocate in different environments. So that means, the federal government, that means the Department of Health and Human Services, that means with regulation. So activities that might not be restricted to just the legislative session or the legislative bodies. So we have plenty of work to do year round. I think we'll probably take a little break over the summer and then come back to it with all of the financial implications for Maine and for TOA coming from the pandemic, the federal money that is flowing in different ways. There will be a lot to pay attention to. And for TOA, certainly, it's not as if your work slows down when the session is over. You guys just keep on going. So there are always issues to dig into and try to advance, regardless of the time of year.
Absolutely. Well, great. It's been great talking with you and hearing more about the Advocacy Committee. And I just want to remind folks that are with us today that Katherine referenced TOA's public policy priorities, and you can get access to that information by going to our website at the Opportunity Alliance or opportunityalliance.org. So have a great weekend, Katherine, and it was great to see you.
Thank you. You too.